Jack Burton remembers the years during which Willie Stark rose to power. While Willie was Mason County treasurer, he became embroiled in a controversy over the building contract for the new school. The head of the city council awarded the contract to the business partner of one of his relatives, no doubt receiving a healthy kickback for doing so. The political machine attempted to run this contract over Willie, but Willie insisted that the contract be awarded to the lowest bidder. The local big shots responded by spreading the story that the lowest bidder would import black labor to construct the building, and, Mason County being redneck country, the people sided against Willie, who was trounced in the next election. Jack Burton covered all this in the Chronicle, which sided with Willie. After he was beaten out of office, Willie worked on his father's farm, hit the law books at night, and eventually passed the state bar exam. He set up his own law practice. Then one day during a fire drill at the new school, a fire escape collapsed due to faulty construction and 3 students died. At the funeral, one of the bereaved fathers stood by Willie and cried aloud that he had been punished for voting against an honest man. After that, Willie was a local hero. During the next gubernatorial election, in which Harrison ran against McMurphy, the vote was pretty evenly divided between city dwellers, who supported Harrison, and country folk, who supported McMurphy. The Harrison camp decided to split the McMurphy vote by secretly setting up another candidate who could draw some of McMurphy's support in the country. They settled on Willie. One day Harrison's man, Tiny Duffy, visited Willie in Mason City and convinced him that he was God's choice to run for governor. Willie wanted the office desperately, and so he believed him. Willie stomped the state, and Jack Burton covered his campaign for the Chronicle. Willie was a terrible candidate. His speeches were full of facts and figures. He never stirred the emotions of the crowd. Eventually Sadie Burke, who was with the Harrison camp and followed Willie's campaign, revealed to Willie that he had been set up. Enraged, Willie gulped down a whole bottle of whiskey and passed out in Jack Burton's room. The next day, he struggled to make it to his campaign barbecue in the city of Upton. To help Willie overcome his hangover, Jack had to fill him full of whiskey again. At the barbecue, the furious, drunken Willie gave the crowd a fire and brimstone speech in which he declared that he had been set up, that he was just a hick like everyone else in the crowd, and that he was withdrawing from the race to support McMurphy. But if McMurphy didn't deliver for the little people, Willie admonished the hearers to nail him to the door. Willie said that if they passed him the hammer he'd nail him to the door himself. Tiny Duffy tried to stop the speech, but fell off the stage. Willie stomped for McMurphy, who won the election. Afterwards, Willie returned to his law practice, at which he made a great deal of money and won some high-profile cases. Jack didn't see Willie again until the next election, when the political battlefield had changed. Willie now owned the Democratic Party. Jack quit his job at the Chronicle because the paper was forcing him to support McMurphy in his column, and slumped into a depression. He spent all his time sleeping and piddling around. He called the period the Great Sleep, and said it had happened twice before, once just before he walked away from his doctoral dissertation in American history, and once after Lois divorced him. During the Great Sleep, Jack occasionally visited Adam Stanton, took Ann Stanton to dinner a few times, and visited his father, who now spent all his time handing out religious flyers. At some point during this time Willie was elected governor. One morning Jack received a phone call from Sadie Burke, saying that the boss wanted to see him the next morning at 10. Jack asked who the boss was, and she replied, "Willie Stark, Governor Stark, or don't you read the papers?" Jack went to see Willie, who offered him a job for $3,600 a year. Jack asked Willie who he would be working for, Willie or the state. Willie said he would be working for him, not the state. Jack wondered how Willie could afford to pay him $3,600 a year when the governorship only paid $5,000. But then he remembered the money Willie had made as a lawyer. He accepted the job, and the next night he went to have dinner at the governor's mansion.